Today we're diving into shame, this really silent barrier to growth. It's often overshadowed by talk of fear or self-doubt, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. And its influence is, well, quite subtle. Its internal whispers can easily be mistaken for fundamental truths about ourselves.
And it's more than just feeling bad,
Right,
right?
much more. It's often a full body experience, something that can genuinely halt our development, stop us in our tracks.
How so?
It fosters this belief that we're inherently broken rather than acknowledging we just made a mistake. And that core belief, well, it really undermines any motivation for change.
So our goal here in this deep dive is to really unpack how shame works. We want to look at its impact on growth and crucially explore some practical ways to move past it.
Moving from that feeling of being stuck, of stagnation, towards genuine expansion.
Let's start with the science because there's some fascinating research here.
There is. Studies show that shame activates parts of the brain, specifically the dorsal anterior cingulate cortex.
And that's significant
Because that's the same region that lights up when we experience physical pain. It tells us the brain processes shame, almost like a bodily injury.
wow, so it's not just feeling hurt, metaphorically. The brain reacts as if it is hurt.
That seems to be the case. It underscores how deeply shame can affect us physiologically, not just emotionally.
There's also research comparing shame and guilt, isn't there?
Yes, and it's a critical distinction. Some studies suggest shame is a stronger predictor of things like depression, anxiety, even lowered self-esteem compared to guilt.
Can you clarify that difference for us? Guilt versus shame.
Certainly, guilt tends to focus on a specific action. I did something bad. It's about behavior.
Like spilling coffee and thinking, oops, I made a mess.
Exactly. Shame, however, turns inward. It targets the self. I am bad. Using your example, it would be, I am such a clumsy idiot for spilling that. It's about identity.
And that internal condemnation, that I am bad feeling, must have huge implications for personal growth.
When someone carries shame from past failures, maybe a business that didn't work out, a relationship that ended, not meeting certain expectations.
They internalize it as proof of their inadequacy.
Precisely. It cultivates this deep sense of unworthiness, a belief that you don't deserve success, or that trying again will just lead to more failure, confirming that inherent badness. It leads to inaction, to stagnation.
So if personal development is about changing our internal stories, shame throws a major wrench in the works.
It really does. Think about the growth mindset idea, the belief you can develop abilities through effort.
Right, the work by Carol Dweck.
Yes, but someone steeped in shame struggles to genuinely embrace that. Deep down, they often don't believe they're worthy of growth or capable of fundamental change.
So just telling someone have a growth mindset isn't enough if shame is the underlying issue.
It often isn't the right starting point. A more crucial initial shift, I'd argue, is from shame toward self-compassion.
Moving away from self-attack towards self-kindness first.
Exactly. Research, particularly by Dr. Kristen Neff, shows self-compassion is actually more strongly linked to motivation than self-criticism is.
That seems counterintuitive to some. People think harsh self-criticism drives them forward.
But the evidence suggests otherwise. Self-compassionate individuals tend to show greater perseverance after failing. They can take accountability without spiraling into self-loathing.
And they build better emotional resilience.
Yes, significantly better. Compassion seems to dismantle shame's power and actually fuels momentum, whereas constant self-criticism just reinforces the feeling of being not good enough.
It's an active force then, not just passive acceptance.
Very much so. Now let's connect this to the body, because shame isn't purely psychological.
You mean how emotions manifest physically?
Precisely. Somatic psychology explores how unprocessed emotions, especially potent ones like shame, can get sort of trapped or stored in the body.
I've heard trauma experts like Peter Levine talk about this.
His work is very relevant here. He suggests unexpressed shame can contribute to physical symptoms, things like chronic muscle tension, fatigue, digestive problems, maybe even impacting the immune system.
It's like the body's holding on to that unresolved emotional energy.
You could think of it as a kind of, perhaps, energetic constipation. Shame can trigger a physiological freeze response, that feeling of being stuck, shut down.
And that blockage hinders everything else. Access to joy, creativity, purpose.
It certainly seems to. It keeps you in a kind of survival mode, making it hard to access those more expansive states.
But there's an antidote.
Movement appears to be a powerful one. Think about it physiologically. Movement can help release that stored tension, get energy flowing again.
It makes sense. When you feel ashamed, you often want to curl up, hide, become small and still.
Exactly. And interestingly, if you look at some cultures, dance and physical expression are central, sometimes used in rituals. There's speculation that these practices might help communities process and release shame collectively.
Contrasting that with, say, Western societies often focused on productivity,
Yeah.
perhaps leading to burnout, is there a link?
It's a question worth considering. Are we potentially disconnected from some of these embodied ways of healing, leading to more internalized shame? It's complex, of course.
Taking an even wider view, shame isn't just personal, is it? It seems embedded in our culture, even our economy.
That's a crucial point. Some argue that shame is, in some ways, a profitable construct.
How do you mean?
Well, think about certain industries, beauty, perhaps parts of the self-help world. Their marketing often hinges on creating or amplifying feelings of inadequacy.
The message being, you're not okay as you are, but buy this product or service, and then you will be.
Essentially, yes, shame about your appearance, your status, your productivity, it can drive consumption. The underlying premise is often that you're lacking.
So the constant message isn't just advertising, it's potentially tapping into and reinforcing shame.
It can certainly function that way. And viewed systemically, a society where people feel ashamed might also be, arguably, a more obedient or distracted society.
Distracted by the constant need for external validation, maybe? Always seeking approval to counter the inner feeling of not enough.
That could be part of it. This constant chase leaves less energy for questioning things or connecting authentically.
So how do we reframe self-improvement then, if it's not about fixing a fundamental flaw?
Perhaps view it as an act of self-honor, of natural evolution. Growth doesn't have to come from a place of deficit. It can come from acknowledging inherent wholeness and simply evolving, which is a natural process.
That feels like a much more empowering starting point. Okay, let's get practical. What can listeners actually do to start releasing shame?
A powerful first step, based on neuroscience, is often called name it to tame it.
Just acknowledging the feeling.
Yes. Dan Siegel's work highlights that simply identifying and verbalizing an emotion, saying, I feel shame right now, can actually reduce its intensity.
How does that work?
It seems to engage the prefrontal cortex, the more rational part of the brain, bringing it online to modulate the raw emotion coming from deeper regions like the amygdala. It creates a little distance.
Simple, but potentially quite effective. What else?
Practicing radical self-forgiveness is key. And let's be clear, this isn't about excusing harmful behavior.
It's about releasing the self-blame.
Exactly. It's liberation from carrying that burden perpetually. Journaling can help here.
With specific prompts.
Yes. Things like, what do I still blame myself for? And crucially, what would I say to a dear friend if they were in this exact situation? That shift in perspective is often revealing.
Bringing compassion into it. And we mentioned movement earlier.
Integrating movement is vital. Doesn't have to be intense exercise. Dancing in your living room, going for a walk, stretching, even conscious breath work.
Anything that helps release that physical tension where shame might be stored.
Precisely. It helps process the emotion somatically, gets things unstuck, and can often lead to mental clarity too.
What about the power of sharing? Shame thrives in secrecy, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. So telling your story aloud in a safe context, maybe with a therapist, a trusted friend, or a support group can be incredibly powerful.
Vulnerability is an antidote.
Yes. Speaking of those shameful stories takes away their power. It breaks the isolation and allows for connection, realizing you're not alone in these experiences.
One final strategy.
Shifting focus from performance to presence. Shame often involves intense self-consciousness, that constant worry. How am I coming across? What do people think?
That can be paralyzing.
It can. So consciously try to shift your attention inward. Instead of how am I being perceived, ask, how am I being present right now? What am I actually experiencing?
Focusing on the internal state rather than the imagined external judgment.
It helps ground you in the moment and reduces the power of that self-conscious loop.
This has been incredibly insightful. It really underscores that personal evolution and clinging to shame just can't coexist.
They are fundamentally incompatible. It comes down to a choice, moment by moment.
Choosing expansion over judgment. Curiosity about mistakes over harsh criticism.
Choosing self-trust over self-hate. It's an ongoing practice.
And the final thought, perhaps, is that shame traps you in the past, in the moment it originated.
But your potential, your capacity for growth always extends far beyond that single point. That possibility for transformation is yours, intrinsically, and can't truly be diminished by external factors or past events once you decide to move beyond the shame itself.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Deep Thoughts Podcast. I hope you found insights and inspiration to take with you on your journey of self-growth. If you enjoyed the show, be sure to hit the subscribe button so you never miss an episode. And don't forget to follow us on social media to stay updated on new releases and exclusive content. See you next time, where we'll continue to help you grow and explore your full potential.